womb.
Sorry.
Is dependent on the carrier for nutrition, for blood flow, and the same way transmissible diseases, especially infectious diseases, can be transmitted from the carrier to the baby. So before a woman qualifies to be a surrogate mother, definitely some amount of screening will be necessary to ensure that that baby can stay in the womb safely and come out safely. For instance, if the woman uses certain drugs and alcohol or other chemicals, definitely that baby in the womb will be exposed to all those things. So the couple wouldn't want somebody who, or even the center that's providing the service, will make sure that the woman is not exposed to anything that can be transferred to the baby whilst in the womb. So definitely some amount of screening will have to be done before one will qualify to be a surrogate mother.
Okay. I've seen some questions in the chat. I think we can tackle some and then we'll move on. So I think the first one has been answered. Does the type of a surrogate mother have an impact on the baby? Example, health of the baby. So that's what you just addressed. Exactly. The second one says, if the sole duty of a surrogate mother is only to deliver and hand over the baby, does she also have to breastfeed the baby?
All right. So here, in most situations, the couple will be on standby to get the baby immediately after delivery. So that mother will not have the opportunity of breastfeeding the baby. And then also, we shouldn't forget that that interaction between the mother and the baby can also lead to some amount of bonding.
Yeah.
And usually you wouldn't like to complicate matters by leaving this newborn baby with a carrier for too long for bonding to take place. So this baby invariably will have to be taken away by, if you like, the legal or the genetic parents, and therefore that baby would not be breastfed by the carrier at that stage.
Okay. But have there been instances where it's become necessary for the surrogate mother to breastfeed the baby?
Again, this will all depend on the kind of arrangement around the surrogacy. If, for instance, one uses her own sister as a surrogate for her pregnancy and feels that, look, the baby is still within the family, so I want my sister to breastfeed my baby for me. That is purely a matter of arrangement that the couple have come into with this surrogate mother. If it is a total stranger, and you don't want your baby to be breastfed by a stranger, for which reason you want to take the baby away immediately, that's also true. Particularly when you cannot control what this surrogate mother feeds on or takes in. So maybe to be on the safe side, it's better to take the baby away and ensure baby is given supplementary feeding, if you like, formula feeding, just to stay away from any further exposures that you think may not be good for the baby at that stage.
Okay, thank you. I hope your question has been answered. The next one says that, why is assisted conception on the rise?
Why is assisted conception on the rise? Well, multiple reasons. The technology is available. People are becoming aware of it, so they are utilizing it. People can afford it, so they go for it. More importantly, the causes of infertility seem to be increasing, particularly tuber disease in the women. And therefore, many of the women are having challenges because of tuber disease, from pelvic inflammatory diseases and other STIs that are not properly treated. They end up in the long term causing tuber blockage. Increasingly, especially in the urban areas, women are getting older before they start their families. And as the women get older, their ovarian function begin to deteriorate. Many will say in passing as their biological clock ticking. Yes, it gets to a point when the biological clock has ticked to the point that natural ovulation and conception becomes difficult. So they have to resort to these assisted reproductive technologies. Fibroid, which is a common condition with Black women, is also becoming more common, maybe becoming more common even at younger age. And then also don't forget that increasingly because of education and career development and pursuit, many more women are delaying the onset of marriage and pregnancy. And all these things are being compounded by fibroid and problems with ovulation and all the likes. And in the olden days, maybe these women may not have any opportunity of having children at all. But assisted reproductive technologies has come in to offer them another option of having children, even when they are a bit older.
Okay, so earlier you mentioned tubal diseases, right?
Yes.
Okay, what's causing the rise?
So you see, it's mainly pelvic inflammatory diseases, which is often caused by sexually transmitted infections.
Oh,
particularly the gonorrhea, the chlamydia, and those in between. If these infections are not treated promptly and treated properly, the medium to long term, they lead to tuber blockage. And these women, by the time they marry, they are unable to achieve conception. Sometimes young girls or young ladies may undergo termination of pregnancies and abortions. That sometimes can be complicated by infection. If these infections are not properly treated, again, can lead to tuber blockage. And in fact, Ghana, like many low and middle income countries, about 30–40% of all infertilities are as a result of tuber blockage. So it is one major cause of infertility on the side of the women. And once there is tuber blockage, the only option left is assisted conception through IVF.
Okay, when you said on the side of the women, so this question also came to mind. On the side of the men, what's the situation like there?
Oh yes, you see, infertility is not a problem of only women. It is a problem of a couple. Because the couple that come together to achieve pregnancy. So often when there is infertility, the couple have to be investigated together. And men also contribute significantly to couple infertility through abnormal sperm, either the sperm quantity, sperm morphology, or even the sperm activity. And male factor infertility is also common. So it's not only the women, but in our society, anytime couple are not able to achieve pregnancy, it's the women who are being chased to go to the hospital and seek treatment.
Yeah.
You'll be surprised. Maybe the key to the problem is actually in the pocket of the man.
Thank you. Okay, so there's a follow-up question to the question about breastfeeding. So it says, what if the couple wants natural breast milk for the baby? Can they get some to feed the baby with, if not from the surrogate?
Well, I don't know whether surrogate, whether couple will want their surrogate mother to feed their baby. Like I said, that's a kind of arrangement that they may have to go into. And don't forget that if the mother doesn't start breastfeeding early, lactation will not be properly established. So if that was not part of the arrangement, and baby has been whisked away from the surrogate mother for weeks, and you go back, there will probably be no breast milk for that baby anyway. In other places, I know there are usually what we call wet banks or breast milk banks. So it may be possible to access some of these breast milk banks. But the question is, would you like somebody's breast milk for your baby when you are not sure of what the source is? In places where they may keep these breast milk banks, usually they are screened to make sure that there is nothing in there that may be detrimental to the baby. I'm not sure of any breast milk bank in Ghana yet. But I know in the advanced countries, yes, the hospitals and other facilities may maintain breast milk bank, for which it may be possible to access in these things.
Yeah. So, what you were tackling this question, it just came to mind. So the couple, the woman, is she prepared to breastfeed, or the baby can just latch on and the breast milk will start flowing?
You mean for the mother who hasn't gone through the pregnancy?
Yes.
The mother who doesn't go through the pregnancy is not likely to be able to breastfeed.
Okay.
Because, preparing for breastfeeding is a whole process, which is part of the pregnancy process. And you notice that during the pregnancy, the breast also prepares itself to feed the baby that comes out. So if the woman has not gone through that pregnancy, by the time the baby comes out, her breast will not be prepared to produce breast milk to feed this baby.
So does that mean that these babies usually are put on formula?
Usually, yes, they are put on formula. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But if this is done and done very well, these babies can still do pretty well. Yeah. But yes, naturally, they will be missing the benefit of breast milk.
Breast milk. Okay. Someone has about 3 questions in one. Don't you think not allowing baby to be breastfed is against the rights of the baby? Deny the child of the needed natural nutrition the baby needs? Is it not against a 6-month mandatory breastfeeding being propagated by the Ghana Health Service? That's what you call portmanteau question.
Precisely, portmanteau question. I mean, the response is obvious. Every couple or every mother will wish to be able to breastfeed her baby. But we are talking about peculiar situation where the genetic mother is not prepared for breastfeeding. I'm sure she will wish she could breastfeed the baby, but things are just not prepared adequately for her to be able to breastfeed. So yes, we do understand the rights of the baby, and here children's rights advocates and the rest could make all the propositions, but I mean, the situation is that it is just not possible. Usually, couples that go through this would have been counseled, knowing the repercussions of having a baby who cannot breastfeed or cannot depend on the mother for breastfeeding. So yes, the couple would have been prepared for all that, so they will know the consequences. And like I said, even mothers who carry their own pregnancy and deliver, it's not all of them that are able to breastfeed successfully.
Yeah.
So this baby who was carried by a surrogate mother will not be the only one that will not enjoy, the benefit of breastfeeding. But like I said, all things being equal, every mother would have loved to do that, but it is just not possible under the circumstances. So yes, the repercussions are known, but just have to go for what is available.
Okay. I'm not sure if that's Auntie Emily, but I see your hand up. But let me be fair to those who asked the questions in the chat, and then I'll come to you soon. So Fred says, can the surrogate ask to bond with the baby if she provided the ovary?
If she provides the ovary, I'm wondering if that qualifies to be a surrogate.
Surrogate.
Then she's no longer just a carrier, but she's also a biological and genetic contributor to that baby.
So that person is not considered a surrogate?
I don't think that will qualify for surrogate because a surrogate plays the role on behalf of a couple where a mother, let's say a wife and a husband have agreed and they bring in somebody, a third person to carry what is theirs for. But of course, if it is a family member or a sister, well, I don't know what arrangement you will call that one. But if it's a close family and it's understandable between the couple that they want the so-called surrogate to be part of that child's life, I think that is entirely left to them.
Okay. The next one says, does the surrogate mother get psychological assistance after delivery?
I did mention from the beginning that usually this arrangement is quite complex. So before a couple enter into this sort of arrangement with a surrogate mother, there needs to be a lot of discussion. Properly, there should be a contract that must be signed. And properly, there should be proper psychological counseling of both the couple as well as the surrogate mother. Because it is not easy for a woman to carry pregnancy for 9 months. Going through all the vomiting, the retching, the big belly, and the lordosis. Lordosis is when the women bend so high, in front, just to be able to balance the big uterus, the arching of their back. They can't even sleep well. They go through whatever form of delivery, and the baby is just taken away from them. There is definitely some amount of bonding during the period that the woman is carrying the pregnancy. So there needs to be proper counseling and understanding of what this surrogate mother is going into. And the proper documentation has to be done and agreed upon between the couple and the surrogate mother. Sometimes there may even be need for compensation, especially if it has to be a total stranger.
Yeah.
And all those terms of the compensation and everything has to be agreed upon so that nobody feels cheated. In fact, there have been instances when a surrogate mother has delivered the baby and decided that I've changed my mind. I want to take the baby.
Wow.
You can imagine the repercussion. And depending on the legal framework within which this arrangement is done, sometimes the law may even support the surrogate mother.
Wow, how?
She has carried the pregnancy. And
But
one may say that person, well, and if she has carried the pregnancy, she may have the first right of ownership to the pregnancy because she's carried it for 9 months. So it depends on the legal framework within which these things are done. So usually it is advisable for a couple entering into this sort of arrangement to find out, is there a legal framework that regulates this sort of practice where they are going to do this? If there is no legal framework, then they may have to write a contract signed by both parties. And that contract is what is going to bind them during the pregnancy and after the delivery. So that's, like I said, the surrogate mother doesn't get up one day and said, hey, immediately after delivery and decides that, no, in fact, I even want the baby, I'll give it to you. That sort of thing.
Yeah. Okay.
The proper
Thank you.
Proper preparation needs to be made.
Yeah. The next one says, before we go to Antwi, can the baby be informed about the circumstances under which he or she was born?
Ooh, this is interesting. Can the baby ask to know the circumstance under which he or she is born?
Or be informed?
Or be informed?
Maybe not. Yes.
Sincerely, I don't know.
I think it depends on the couple.
Exactly. I would say it will depend on the couple. Maybe we cannot decide. Do we want to know, do we want to tell our babies the circumstances under which they were born? If it happens to be in the situation of surrogacy, do we want to tell them? That is without them asking. But maybe the more important question should be, one day that baby grows up and says, I want to know, will we be ready to tell them if it's through a surrogate arrangement? I think that is left to the couple to decide. Maybe now that this question has been asked, people should begin to think about it.
I'm even wondering why, I mean, what would prompt a child to ask whether, Mommy, was I born through surrogacy or you had me? Unless they see something to indicate.
Well, Abby, you may not know what children want to know these days. Yeah, so maybe we should be prepared and be thinking of some answers before these questions are thrown at us when we are not ready for them.
Okay, Assembly, are you there?
Yes, I'm actually here. I'd like to say that the previous question partly answered the question that the previous question and response partly answered the question that I had, because mine was actually around the checks and balances that are in place to make sure that the system, that, you know, this process is not abused for all good intentions that we've had. I mean, there might be legitimate reasons for which couples are not able to conceive and so would want to use this route. But then the question becomes, what are the checks and balances? So I heard about, you know, the contractual agreements or arrangements that have to be made, and that's good. But then the follow-up question that I have is that how are these key stakeholders within this whole process? Are they integrated, or to what extent are their processes integrated? And I can explain. So for example, if someone went to an in vitro clinic to have this thing done, would the physicians look or inquire about the contractual arrangements that are in place to inform their next steps? So that would be my question. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think this is a very important question. You know, these things are relatively new in our context here in Ghana. And in fact, when you talk about legal framework, as we speak, the first legal arrangement is now being drafted for our country. The Society of Assisted Reproductive and Infertility in Ghana is now drafting their first laws that will regulate not only surrogacy, but other forms of assisted reproductive technology. For instance, egg donation, sperm donation, you know, egg banking, for how long, how should you discard it if you are not going to need it again, all these things. So they are quite infantile when it comes to legal framework in our part of the world, in Ghana, I should say. So often, it is the facilities where these services are provided, facility owners, or if you like, the doctors there, who have to bring the couple and these surrogate mothers together. Usually, if it's a family member providing this service, that may not be too difficult. But even then, I will still suggest or recommend that things are put down on paper, because your sister may be nice to you today. Next time may not be so nice. If things are done and done properly, and there is a paper that everybody can refer to, that binds everyone. It's even more difficult when it's a total stranger that you don't know from anywhere, that you are bringing to come and carry the baby. You know, by the fact that this woman is carrying a pregnancy, there will have to be a certain arrangement and monitoring to ensure that the pregnancy goes on smoothly till safe delivery. So again, this carrier will have certain responsibilities and obligations to abide by certain routines that ensures that that baby she's carrying is not endangered either by exposure to some other things that may affect the baby or not. So there definitely has to be proper arrangement. And I will imagine that until there is a national legal framework to regulate these things, the service providers will have to provide the ambience or the environment to ensure that this, whatever contractual agreement is agreed upon or is signed, is properly operationalized. So that's what I'll say for now.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, we'll go back to the chat. Linda says, okay, I think in answer to the question about the child being informed, she says that most likely it will be in the contract. And then she goes on to say, and can surrogacy be likened to adoption?
Well, surrogacy and adoption are entirely different. Usually, couple adopt a baby that they do not have, they have played no biological role in the conception and the delivery of that baby. For surrogates, in surrogacy, the couple have contributed both egg and sperm, or egg or sperm, at least something. But in adoption, they have no biological role. Baby is delivered by somebody else, and they bring that child into their home under certain legal arrangements. So surrogacy and adoption are two different things, I should say.
Okay, thank you. We have a very interesting question next. Someone's saying, can actual intercourse take place between the man and the surrogate mother if the surrogate is going to provide the ovary? I think from this point, you can go into the religious aspect. And then we'll continue.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
By the surrogate arrangement, it should not involve sexual intercourse with the carrier. Yes, it should not. If there's sexual intercourse with the carrier, then we are not talking about surrogacy. Then it's something else. It's like the man going for another wife. If it's culturally acceptable to the couple, then that's fine. And note that in this case, the wife or the legal wife in the marriage has no part in that baby. So it is just the man, like the man going for a second wife and having a baby with a second wife, or whatever arrangements you call with that one. So that cannot be well, certainly that doesn't qualify. So Abby, we want to know whether, as Christians, is surrogacy permitted? Well, the Bible makes us understand that it says that, look, Bible says that I wish above all things that you will prosper and be
in good health.
And as part of that prosperity is everything that makes us fulfilled and happy. In a marriage arrangement, if couples think that not having a child of their own is no problem, they are quite fine. They can live happily without having any concerns. But does not having a child of their own present a problem to them as a couple who are in the marriage? If it does, question is, to what extent can they go to solve that problem so that they will be fulfilled and happy, as the Bible wants everyone to be fulfilled and be happy? I know that people may have challenges with a couple, if you like, renting an entire womb to carry a baby for them. Because after all, we believe as Christians that pregnancy and childbearing is a gift from God. So if God chooses to gift you a child, that's fine. If he decides not to, that is also supposed to be fine. But how does that affect the physical and mental health of the couple? Does it leave the couple at peace to be able to serve their God? If yes, that's fine. If not, can modern technology help them achieve the same thing? Do we have instances in the Bible where alternative arrangement has been made to solve problems of infertile couple? And I will say yes.
Okay, can you share
the
some?
The Bible says that in Genesis chapter 16, reading from verse 1 onwards, referring to Sarah and Abraham, Sarah noticed that she had come of age and she was not going to be able to carry a child of her own. So she suggested to her husband Abraham, he said, my husband, go into my maid Hagar and have her bear a child for you.
Was that acceptable? Was it a directive from God? I think that's what the question would be.
Well,
or
it was directive from God. It was meant to solve their problem. The question we should be asking ourselves is what was the consequences of this? How did the child that come out, how was that child handled? And what became of the future of that child? I'm sure we know pretty well. Okay, so it's not as if it never happened. Did God despise Ishmael because he was born out of an arrangement between Abraham and Hagar? What was God's reaction even to Abraham, the man in the center of all this? So it is difficult for anybody to say that this is right, this is wrong. The question we should be asking ourselves is, what will be the conviction of the individual who are involved in this? Are they at peace with themselves when they've prayed to God? And God knows their worries and their concerns about their childlessness. And when they even put the request before God that we want to use this option, how do they feel? If they feel at peace by their conviction, then I wouldn't be able to blame them for anything. Yes, dispute that. So what I would say is that if Christian couple are faced with such a situation, pray.
Yeah.
Pray to God. Seek direction. And if you feel convinced about it, you have the strong conviction that you should do this. I mean, the consequences is between you and the God that you serve.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Okay, there's another interesting one. From experience, I know that pregnant women desire for sex during certain stages of the pregnancy. Who satisfies the sexual desire of this surrogate mother?
So this is where proper arrangement of what is permissible and what is not permissible within the surrogate arrangement must be written and signed by all. The surrogate mother must know her limits on what she can request for and what she cannot request for. There is nothing scientific that says that a pregnant woman must have sex to be able to successfully carry the pregnancy or deliver. So if that is not part of the surrogate arrangement, then this surrogate mother cannot come and demand that, you know, I want A or B or that sort of thing. So the contract or the legal arrangement or framework within which these things are done is very, very important, so as to avoid any evolving complications.
So we need to thoroughly think through the whole thing.
Precisely.
And look at all the possible things that will come up and talk about them or deal with them before they become issues in the future.
Precisely.
Okay, the next one. There's a perception that poor women are usually used as surrogates by the rich. I also learned that every harvesting or sale is ovary harvesting or sale is on the rise in the poor communities. Well, this is a topic that can be a whole show. Do you want to tackle it?
Well, you see, in every arrangement where there is money involved, you can expect that some people would like to exploit it. So maybe a poor woman hears that, oh, if I'm able to carry pregnancy for a couple, I may get XY amount of money. Why not? Within 9 months or even maximum 1 year, let me go through it and get my money. Go and use the money for whatever I want to do it. Cool money. So they may go for it. But what people also forget is that 9 months of pregnancy comes with a whole lot of issues.
Yeah.
Including even death. And no amount of money can pay for the life of the individual. So I will say that young women who feel they need money and they think being baby carriers could serve that purpose must think properly, because it's not every money that you must go for, because you don't know what the consequence is going to be. And in fact, it's not only losing your lives. Sometimes even complications related to the pregnancy, and you can even lose your womb. What happens to you when you are alive and in future, maybe you are ready to have your own children and you are unable to do that? What will that money you've collected be able to do for you? So the desire to help a couple must be the driving force and not the monetary consideration. Because no amount of money can pay for your womb, the value of a woman's womb, or even for her life in that case. Well, egg harvesting and egg sales on the rise, you know, there are a lot of things that are happening. Some of them quite clandestine. But I suggest that if anybody wants to go through that process, they should seek proper advice, because before they harvest your egg or you donate egg, you go through certain treatments. And some of those treatments may also have their own issues. So one must know exactly what she is signing on for. And the monetary consideration shouldn't be the only motivating factor. Yes, some money is good. Maybe just within a space of 1 month, oh, you're able to donate X amount of X. You get some cool money to go and solve your problems. But people should always think of the long term, and they should try and have a holistic view of whatever they are going through and not be blinded by the monetary consideration.
Thank you. I hope your question has been answered. He has a number more a couple of them. He says that I think it is the societal pressure that coerces couples to opt for surrogacy. Yeah, I think he mentioned that at the beginning. And then polygamy should be promoted over surrogacy.
Yeah.
No, we talked about, I think the last 2 or 3 weeks, we discussed whether the Bible frowns on men having, well, in this case, men having a second wife. It was a very interesting discussion, and polygamy came in. I am afraid that if we toe this line right now, we might not fully tackle the question on hand or the discussion on hand. So I don't know, Prof, is there a way you can answer the question such that
the issue of polygamy and surrogacy? You see, I think we need to remember that the circumstance of the couple may not be the same. If you are talking about Christian couples, where the instruction is one man, one wife, polygamy or taking a second wife is not an alternative. Okay, so that one is a no-no. But if it is not a Christian marriage and polygamy is acceptable, I'm sure even between the couple and even the men will prefer to go for a second wife than to consider surrogate mothers.
Surrogate.
Again, what the couple wants should always be put forth. A couple may have struggled, made their life together, and they don't want a second wife to come and create a problem, but they want a child. And to them, they think taking a stranger to help them do this will give them their peace of mind, because that woman's job will be bound by contracts. And once the contract is executed and completed, it is done. That woman will have no part of their life. And they prefer that arrangement. That is fine. Yes. So I think in all this, we should defer to what the couple wants and the best way that they think they can solve their infertility problem.
Okay. He went on to say that in the future, the man can use the surrogacy to insult the woman. Okay, we'll move on to the next one. Can the surrogate be asked not to have sex during pregnancy? Can she top up somewhere? Fred, you have very interesting questions.
You see, like I said, there are certain routine arrangements that they have to go through. The question is how the surrogate mother, at the time she's carrying the pregnancy, carries herself. Does affect the baby in one way or the other. So there has to be some elements as to how much liberty she will have, what she can do and what she cannot do. We know, for instance, that if people have unprotected sex, they can have HIV infection. So if this woman, surrogate mother, goes on to have unprotected sex and develops HIV infection whilst carrying other couple's baby, that HIV she has acquired can be transmitted to the baby in the womb before the baby is even delivered. So there's a risk that the surrogate mother's behavior can pose to the baby that she's carrying. So all these things must be listed and signed on in the contract so that the surrogate mother knows what she's signing on to. And the couple also know what their obligations are or will be to this surrogate mother.
So is there a way to monitor the person?
There has to be some form of monitoring, but the question is how much of monitoring can be done? Are you going to bring this surrogate mother to come and live in your home so that, I mean, every day you see her and be able to put some checks on her. Will she agree? If she agrees to come and live in your home, that's fine. How about she says, no, I'll not agree to live in your home. I want to be on my own. Are you willing and ready for her to be on her own? How about even times that she has to go for antenatal clinic, antenatal care? If she decides not to go, what are you going to do? So all these things have to be properly spelled out. If the couple care so much about these things, then they must make sure that it is documented as part of the contract and it is signed onto.
And then there'll be penalties for defaulting, so to speak.
Well, again, how to implement the penalty and all those things, it all has to be in the contract.
Okay. Wow. This is a very extensive thing, not to be taken lightly. Okay. Another interesting one. Are there ovaries on the black market?
You know, Ghana black market, I don't know what we call the black market. I don't know exactly what we call the black market, but if we are talking about clandestine arrangements,
I guess
outside proper framework, you know, anything can be done. But if you want things done properly, I will advise you don't use the black market arrangements, because if you use a black market arrangement and somebody cheats you, you won't be able to complain anywhere.
Okay. So Eunice says that the surrogate mom can never completely detach herself from the child. The emotional baggage must be enormous. Having had my own kids, I can only imagine. The baby has fed on what you eat and drink. It's an unforgettable part of you. Won't you have to account to God for him or her someday? So I guess that's a question.
Well, I mean, the response is, I mean, is known to all of us. You see, like I said, it can also be a compassionate service to a couple who are in need. So, for instance, I mean, you have little sister or even older sister married, and they've tried whatever they can, they are still unable to achieve pregnancy, and you decide to come in to support them. You do this out of compassion to solve the need of a couple. So you will, in fact, you will even feel proud that you've been able to make that contribution. I'm sure when that child grows, well, you won't go and stand in the corner somewhere and point to people that, hey, I carried that child for my sister. Otherwise, by now she'll be childless. But even you feel within yourself that pride that you'll be able to help them solve a critical need or problem. And you would have done it with a lot of pride. So I think it's all about how we perceive this. It is how we perceive this. And if you're having an emotional attachment to your sister's child, I believe that should be a positive emotion, not out of jealousy or out of envy, but you know that you have done something good to help solve a problem for somebody you so love or you cherish.
Like you mentioned at the beginning, which I was also thinking about, that as Christians, before we take any action, we need to be sure that it's from God. I mean, once he vetoes it, I don't think there should be any cause for worry. You know, we shouldn't do things based on how we feel or our own judgment. We should present it to God and let him be the one to direct us. So if he says that, well, this is the way I want you to go, then he will ensure that everything else works out and everybody cooperates. I mean, that's what I think. Okay. I don't think surrogacy contracts can be enforced in Ghanaian courts. Fred, I would want to ask you why you are saying that. If you are there, can you tell us? Fred, are you there? There are no existing laws. Yeah, so Prof mentioned that, yeah, it's still in its infant stages. So it's only now that some laws are being made. Prof, maybe you can add on.
Yeah, I mean, like I indicated, I mean, the laws around surrogacy and artificial reproductive technology in general is still in its draft stage. They've not been signed into law yet. But in the event that such things appear in the courts, and I don't think there hasn't been any by now, even though I don't follow court proceedings that much, if such things appear in courts, they will usually, the lawyers and the judges will have to use similar or something close to this sort of arrangement to be able to make pronunciations on them. And a lot of them will emanate from common law. I mean, what is right in society and what is commonly accepted will be the kind of references that they will make. And I'm sure they will look at the cases on their own merits and then find laws that they will be able to use to make pronunciations on such. It doesn't mean if surrogate issues have to go to court, they can't go to court because there are no formal laws in this country that regulate the operation. Once you get to the law courts, I'm sure the lawyers and the judges will find something based upon which some pronunciations will have to be made. And often most of these emanate from common law, as they will call it.
Thank you. Letty says, does baby inherit any genes or traits from surrogate mothers? I think you touched a bit on that.
So inheritance is directly from the egg and or the sperm. So since the surrogate mother does not contribute egg or the sperm, they will not. But let me place a caution here. There are certain conditions that may show up in the baby in later life. That is purely as a result of the environment within the womb. And that includes infections, that includes certain metabolic diseases. Common among them is diabetes. If when the baby was in the womb, the one carrying the baby developed diabetes, it is possible that over time, that baby could also have some risk factors for diabetes. In this case, obesity during childhood and early adulthood and those things. Those are not direct genetic inheritance, but they become predisposed to them because of the environment within which the baby grew in the womb.
Thank you very much. Again, Fred says, I think adoption should be encouraged rather than surrogacy. Okay.
You know, looking at it on surface, adoptions seem to be a simpler arrangement, and maybe so because it is more established in our part of the world. So many people are likely to accept that one compared to surrogacy and all the complexities that is associated with it. And certainly adoption does solve problems. That's solve problems. But don't forget also that in our society, people want to see a woman pregnant. People want to see a woman carrying a baby. And for which reason, sometimes people feel that surrogacy will solve their problem. So whatever the issues are, the concerns and the satisfaction of the question of the couple in question should be given all the attention that it deserves.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Prof, for the wonderful discussions. Will you advise the couple gets to see the surrogate mother if she's not a relative?
Yes, usually they see. They know who will be carrying their baby even before the arrangement is started. Because remember, they are stakeholders. And here, the key stakeholders are the couple, the surrogate mother, and maybe the provider who is bringing these parties together. So definitely they meet even before anything starts. I mean, the couple may meet the potential surrogate mother and just look at the shape of her nose and say, no, we don't want this woman to carry our baby. It is their baby. So they make the determination to a large extent, yes.
Okay. Assembly, I see your hand up. Please go on.
Oh, yes. I had a question around education. So this is a great platform. I mean, I've been educated. I've learned a lot in this short period of time. So I guess the question is, to what extent is the Ghanaian populace receiving education on these types of choices and the pros and cons associated with them?
My simple answer is this program is also contributing to that sort of education. But definitely we need a bigger platform than this.
Yeah.
We definitely need a bigger platform like this. And issues as sensitive as this, anytime they come up, I mean, the conversation never ends. You know, and it is the duty of all health workers, maybe particularly those who work in the space of fertility and infertility treatments, you know, Christian organizations, to also be part of this campaign. Women's group at whatever level. I think the education is the responsibility of everyone. Entire society. It's the responsibility of everyone, so that people become informed, know the options available to them, and see what they can do to solve their problems. Unfortunately, the problem as I see it, is that there are certain topics like this that people frown upon discussing them. They don't want to discuss them because we see them as being sensitive issues. But they are sensitive issues that affect our daily lives.
Yeah.
So we need to confront them and talk about them. And that is where I commend you, Abi, for coming up with this sort of discussion. Well done.
Thank God. Thank you. A follow-up to what you just said. Don't you think that the health centers should take the lead in the awareness creation? Like how there are campaigns for one health issue or the other. I feel like with this too.
Certainly, I mean, for instance, midwives and nurses who look after women, obstetricians, gynecologists like myself and others. We have SOGOG, which is the Society of Obstetricians and Gynecologists of Ghana, which is a big organization in this country that actually, among other things, champion the healthcare of women in Ghana. But hey, let me be quick to say that fertility and childbearing issues are not only concerns for women. It is for a couple, it is for society, it is for the whole country. But somebody has to lead the campaign.
Yeah.
And I must say that the Society of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, through the Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons, yes, once in a while, we do talk about some women health issues, including fertility and its management in all manner of forms. So yes, there's some talk going on, but it depends on which platform you are on, and it depends on the audience that are listening to. Sometimes the engagement and even the direction of the discussion may be different. But I agree, we still need to talk about it.
Yeah. Thank you. I think, okay, let me finish with the chats. Can the surrogates be asked to carry multiple babies? I'm not sure what this means. Fred, are you talking about the person being, is it inseminated with multiple gametes, or what exactly do you mean?
Yes, say twins. Yeah, twins, triplets, and that sort of thing. Well, like I indicated, often surrogacy is accomplished in the setting of assisted reproductive technology. So where you have fertilization occurring in the lab or in the test tube and the transfer. And under these circumstances, most of the time, or so often, you end up having more than one baby developing. So yes, you may transfer one, you may transfer two, but the fact that you transfer two embryos does not mean both of them will survive. Maybe only one will survive, so you may end up with a singleton. You may transfer two, both of them will survive. In fact, you may transfer two and one of them may even split further, so you may end up with triplets. But one thing we should note is that the higher number of babies in the womb is also associated with higher risk and complications rates. So whilst a single baby may be safe, twins and triplets and higher order are associated with more complications. And once there is complications, chances are that you may lose all. So I don't know which one you want. And complications may affect the mother as well. Again, I believe as part of the contract, they may need to state it clearly. How many eggs are being transferred? And even if it is one egg that is transferred, what is the potential that it may divide and end up with two babies in the womb? And what will be the repercussions? You know, in even standard IVF, where the woman or the wife carries her own baby, you could transfer two eggs and may end up with quadruplets. For which reason, the risk of miscarriage and other complications is too high. So you may decide that you need to reduce the number so as to improve the chance of you having one or even two. So all these things will have to be clearly stated in the contract so that should the two embryos that have been transferred convert to four, are you going to selectively remove some and then make sure that at least you are left with one or two, so those will survive and at least you get something out of the surrogacy? Or you want to kill 4 birds with 1 stone? So you committed to carry all the 4, and how about if she ends up with miscarriage or other complications, for which reason she's not even able to give you 1 out of all that? So these are all things that need to be explained to the couple. They need to be properly educated, and they don't say that, oh, because I'm paying this young girl woman to carry for me, let me ask her to carry 4 at a go so that I will pay just once and get 4 babies. Know that the more the numbers, the higher the complication rate as well.
So the ethical issues come up in this.
Precisely, ethical issues come in here.
Yes, Eddie, I see your hand up. Please go on.
Abigail, good evening, and good evening,
Good evening
to everyone, and then the speaker. So, been listening to the presentation so far. I think you asked a very important question. As believers, as Christians, I think it's a Christian program. I don't know what it's suggested. As Christians, do we live by popular culture? What popular culture accepts and practices, or we live by what God wants us to live by in the Bible? And when we marry, I mean, how does God want us to bring children into the world? It is within the context of marriage. And so the attempt to seek to, go outside of the partners involved in the marriage to seek a solution. I mean, other than probably adopting, it can be quite problematic. So I think that bit is also very important. Thank you so much.
Okay. Prof, you want to tackle that?
I mean, I certainly agree with Eddie. And as I indicated, children are a gift from God. and he chooses to give to us when and how many. We want to live at peace with our God. We want to be able to say that, yes, we served our God well. God also wants us to live at peace and be mentally sound and be happy in everything. That's why I said the conviction of the couple is very, very important. When you pray about your infertility issues, how do you feel? Are you satisfied the way things are going with you? And if you are not satisfied, what request do you put before God in your prayers? And how do you see those requests being answered? So I will not make a prescription for any Christian couple. Thankfully, we can all go on our knees and pray to God and seek God's face for real answers to our problems. If in seeking his face for answers to his problem, you feel directed that this is the way to go, and you go and you get the results, that will be God's answer to your problem. So I'll just leave it as that.
Okay, thank you. Fred says, apologies for my ignorance. My space is in logistics. I know I've asked some weird questions. It's okay, Fred. That's why we are here. We want to openly discuss these things so that we can make the right decisions. I'm just tossing the question that Eddie asked in my mind about we going outside of the marriage setting to have children. And you compare that with adoption. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you approve of adoption. I'm tempted to think that, let me be careful how I say this. I mean, it's sort of about the same idea. We can say that, okay, with adoption, it's someone else's child. So apart from you wanting your own child, it's another way of taking care of probably a child that has been abandoned, or a child that can't be taken care of by their parents. But in the case of, and that's also outside of marriage. I mean, that's also going outside of the marriage setting to get a child for argument's sake, you know. With the surrogacy, this is actually your own flesh and blood, so to speak, but it's being reproduced in another person. So if anything, again, for argument's sake, the surrogacy seems to be closer to you than the child that you're adopting. I mean, it's a point for discussion. Yeah, Eddie.
Yes, Abigail. Yeah, thank you. So yes. In fact, when I was going to even mention the adoption, I was a bit careful because I know, that this argument you are putting across can also be put across. But actually, when you look at the two scenarios critically, I don't know so much about this surrogacy thing, but is it that the man's, maybe for the want of a better word, the man's sperm would be carried by another woman, and then she would give birth? I don't know. Okay, so maybe I would need some education here. How is it like?
Okay, so it looks like you probably joined a little later.
Yeah.
So in surrogacy, what happens is that the man's sperm is taken and used to fertilize the wife's egg to form the early pregnancy. And that early pregnancy is transferred into a second woman who is called the surrogate mother, into her womb.
That is where the problem is.
Yes. Yes, I know.
That is where the problem is.
That's where the problem is, yes.
That is where the bigger problem is. I mean, and biblically speaking, I mean, it comes directly against, what biblical marriage, proposes. You see, because I mean, you talk about adoption. With adoption, the two partners in the marriage agree that another person's child, who probably the parents are dead or something, can we agree and go and bring that child and maybe play that humanitarian, a role and offer that care and concern, whatever, to that child. But with this one, there's a second woman involved in the thing, and that's where the danger is. You understand? So it's a bit tricky. I don't know. It's a bit tricky. Thank you, though.
Yeah, I mean, Eddie, I agree with you. It is tricky, not only in terms of our faith, the biblical position, but it can also be even tempting to the marriage, to put it that way. There have been instances where the man has even moved on with the surrogate mother. It happened. Yes. So these things don't have to be taken lightly at all. There have been several reported cases where the man has just taken on with the surrogate mother and then they've moved on. No? Yeah. So there are issues that need to be closely looked at. Yes, it is meant to solve a problem, but we need to be careful that it doesn't create more problems than it is intended to solve.
So we shouldn't just get excited that this provision is there. We should take
No,
time.
we shouldn't get excited. In fact, some surrogate mothers have even used the pregnancies they are carrying to blackmail the husbands, the men. If men are wooing the men to themselves, and by the time she delivers, you, the wife, in the middle of all this, you don't even have any position anymore. So we need to be careful. Yes, we certainly need to be careful.
This brings to mind the passage that says that all things are lawful, but not all are beneficial.
Certainly. So
we need to go to God and allow him to direct us and show us. Okay. Our friend Fred has come again. Our time is actually up, so we'll take his. Oh wow. Okay, these last two questions, we'll take them and then we'll round up. So first is, can the couples choose the sex of the baby? Can the couples choose the sex of the baby before introduction into the surrogate?
There are certain issues in assisted reproductive technology that is not often encouraged, like sex selection, other genetic marker selection, that sort of thing. It may be bordering on what we call designer babies. I know in certain jurisdictions, yes, some of these things may be permissible. So these are the things that regulatory laws are supposed to ensure that they are not, for instance, permitted to happen. So you go into a setting where maybe you're going to have donor egg or donor sperm, and you want certain qualities or characteristics of the man before you select the egg. Maybe I want a man who is 6 feet tall, who has broad chest,
blue eyes,
this shape of nose, those things, they bother what we call the designer babies. So often regulations are quite strict around those things. Otherwise, it can create problems. Sex selection, we may think it's that simple, but you also need to go through a lot of what we call pre-implantation testing to be able to determine whether this embryo is a boy or is a girl and what is going to be and that sort of thing. Yeah. So it's not all the things that you want that you may get. And sometimes regulations are brought in to control our choices. Otherwise, sometimes if you leave people, we may make all manner of demands and selections. Yeah.
Okay, our final comment. Thank you, Prof, for the wonderful insight. Surrogacy has lived with us for ages, as examples in the book of Genesis, the story of Abraham, Sarah, and Hagar. Thankfully, technology has refined the process. It is time to end the myth around surrogacy. It may sound a win-win scenario from a distance, but may be far from that with social, ethical, and legal twists such as that is demonized by many. But the medical benefits are immeasurable to the couple, society, and nation at large. Education should be the way forward. Thank you very much, Philip. Eddie says, I do not think what happened between Abraham, Sarah, and Hagar can be compared to the subject matter under discussion. Prof, you remember I was mentioning the exact same thing earlier.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So probably that's quite how do I say it? It's not exactly the best of examples because we can't be sure whether it was the way to go. It's what God wanted, or it was their own.
The scenarios may be different. That's why I kept saying that each one of us should present our problems before our Maker, seek His face, seek direction. If we are convinced, or we have the conviction that is the direction that He wants us to go, and we are at peace with it, it definitely offers a solution. If your faith is against it, definitely that is not the end of the world. There are other equally workable options that we can look at here.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, our time is up. So please, if you have any further questions, I can connect you with Prof and you put them across. Thank you all so very much. And thank you so much, Prof, for coming on. This has been really insightful. And like you mentioned, and I agree, it's a conversation starter. It doesn't end here. We'll keep talking about it. We'll keep seeking insight from God as to what to do in such situations. So God bless you all. This has been the IMANI Reveals show. This is where we speak. We are real so that we can live. And the life we look to live is a life that Christ has given us, the abundant life. So in all things, let's seek the face of Christ and allow Him to be the one to direct our actions or inactions. All right. Prof, please, can you pray with us?
All right, shall we share a word of prayer? We are thankful to you, God, our Almighty Father, for this opportunity to share knowledge, to have this open and frank discussion. We are guided by what you have taught us, that in all situations we should seek your face and seek your direction. It's my prayer that for any couple that may need, or that may have an experience that they need to seek such intervention, that you yourself will speak to them, direct them, and exactly let them know what they need to do. May you also continue to direct us in all things that we do, that in all situations we'll seek your direction and seek your interest first. This is our prayer to you through Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Amen.
Amen. All right. So God willing, we'll meet again next week.
Thank you.
All right. You can unmute, show your faces as you exit.
God bless you, Abigail.
God bless you too. Fred, okay, I'll invite you.
Yes, you are being money.
God bless you too.
This is so informative and educative. I've learned so much.
Thank you. We give God all the glory.
Amen.
Same here. Bye.
Amen. Bye, Anthony.
Bye.
Bye, Abby.
Bye, Uncle Robert. It's been a while.
Yes, I've been listening.
Okay. Okay. That's good to know. Okay. Thanks a lot for coming.
All right, good night.
Thank you to Evelyn. God bless you, Comfort. All right. ending the call now. Thank you all for coming.